Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. And this is the Surfliner team. We're reporting on our last sprint of our fall 2025 work cycle. And today we're going to be covering the following topics. We've got updates on our discovery prototype and some exciting demos for some IIIF work. We've got some application and environment reliability updates, some Comet MVP feature functionality, and some updates around our technical debt reduction, and a little sneak peek about maybe what's coming up next. We'll sort of do that to pause at the end for questions if you'd like to ask them. And then for folks that are uncomfortable asking questions online, we'll sort of pause and you can ask those offline. And having said that, we'll go ahead and hand this over to David and Elisa to check out our first demo of the sprint review.
Yeah, I'm not going to demo anything. I'm just going to talk a little bit about APIs and backend infrastructure, and then Elisa can show how it all comes together. But our search API is feature complete, and we also have tested it with about 80,000 records migrated from legacy ADRL here at Santa Barbara. So that gives us a great chance to do some performance testing and performance improvements on the API backend there. And we also have completed the integration with Cantaloupe, our IIIF image server, and on the back end of that, SuperSkunk, our metadata service, which is also responsible for keeping track of access controls and looking up objects in cloud storage and that kind of thing. So all those pieces are together, which means we can now deliver images through to ADR Lite through IIIF. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And we also did some work to, as you may know, if you've been following these, the ADR Lite front end is built out of a collection of shared components that we call Daylight, and we've had that working in development for quite some time, but we did the work this sprint to make sure that integration can work well in other environments, and developers should be able to seamlessly transition between using the local components or using the components that are already like published to the server. So we're in really good shape for future deployments there. Over to you, Elisa.
Hello. All right, I'm going to share my screen. And you should see our Alexandria digital site. I'm just going to use it. I think this is the best way to demo this. We get search now, we get thumbnails. We were able to work through some buggy behavior with our paging, which is now working much more seamlessly. And also, the real big thing that I felt was really exciting this work cycle is a universal viewer. So this now is able to pull in that manifest from the API, and then give us information. So we saw the thumbnail of just the oranges on the main result page, but actually the viewer has both the front and back of the image. This came with the manifest, which was such a beautiful way to get to more functionality very quickly. And it's just been really fun. We still have some metadata down below. This is just the basic configuration too for the UV Universal Viewer. I haven't added any other configuration points that this feature or this element allows. But this out of the box has been really fulfilling to see come to fruition. And that's really it.
Thanks, Elisa. That's super exciting. That's like a whole nother arc to some next functionality that's going to be coming up. Thanks for that demo. All right, I'm going to be covering a little bit from our environment and application reliability side next. The team did a lot of really great work, mainly with the help of our data migration team, who's been sort of pushing Comet to the limit and helping us observe what are and aren't blockers and helping us kind of triage those. Some exciting high-level achievements from this work cycle. We managed to achieve a 50% reduction in ingest time, which is actually massive for a data migration. So if you can imagine, single ingest maybe taking 8 hours, getting chopped into 4, that's much better. There's still much more to do there, but we're prioritizing at this point probably core functionality over raw performance. And we're kind of turning our eye to some areas in the application, for example, like batch workflow processing or other things that just make the general overall experience better before continuing to chase either ingest time reductions. And so that's actually been amazing. We actually patched a few other bugs. Notably, our notification bell was causing a problem. If you clicked it with a bunch of unread notifications, it actually would crash the application. That's been patched, so thanks to the team for doing that. It was a fun discovery, especially with how often people click that bell. I evidently don't click it very often. Chrissy clicks it all the time. So it was a good contrast there. And so again, we also patched other things to improve reliability, and we're noticing things on the infrastructure layer that we want to address that aren't necessarily burning fires, but we do want to prioritize them for long-term ingest stability. I think at this point, I'm going to turn it over a little bit to maybe the team to talk about some Comet core MVP functionality, maybe mainly on the complex object ordering. David, would you want to maybe just give us a quick little rundown of where we landed with that?
For the yeah, so we've talked a lot about ordering within complex objects and ordering within collections, and ordering components of complex objects, and also ordering objects within collections, and ordering files within objects, or rather file sets. So it was an interesting process over the last over the work cycle of finalizing those requirements. I think we learned a lot about how to communicate and plan these things, but we finished with something that we're happy with, and that is feature complete and in testing now. So great work.
Yep, definitely. That's going to unblock the team on doing a lot of great stuff. So well said, David. I think the other bits we want to add there for some core Comet MVP functionality, we finished requirements gathering for what metadata should be sent to EasyID for ARC minting, and that was an important step. And Chrissy, was there anything you wanted to add just to the implications for that, or why that's so important?
Yeah, so to add some details to this, when an object is approved in Comet, it goes out to EasyID and mints an ARC, which is associated then with that object as a permanent identifier. The connection to EasyID was set up and the ARCs were being minted, but we weren't sending any metadata. And what I'm actually really excited about the finalized requirements is that they have us leveraging the M3, the metadata configuration file, some pre-existing mappings that already are there for our OAI PMH feeds. So that way, each campus's metadata configuration helps to control what metadata is going to be sent to EasyID. And I think what's exciting also is that it's hopefully, when it's implemented, going to lay the groundwork for also sending the data site info that's needed to support our DOI minting for some of our objects in a workflow. And so it's nice because it leverages existing configurations are there, but still gives each campus control over what information is being sent. And also started to lay the groundwork for the different phases of identifier and EasyID along the workflow. So I thought that was really great to get hammered down, and excited to see it implemented.
Yeah, I also just wanted to say that I think that was another great example of a complex constellation of features that we in the end had some really great discussions with stakeholders and were able to figure out a set of requirements and an implementation plan that would work for everybody. And crucially, that it was not necessarily exactly the same way that things work in the current San Diego dams, but something that would meet everybody's needs, which I think is great.
Excellent. Well, I think I'll give an update here on our disaster recovery strategies, which are mostly complete. We've exercised both of, at least on the San Diego side, we've exercised both the storage and the database recoveries for those. Santa Barbara is also doing those and making some important decisions, and we're sort of at a place where we're making a push to implement our last bit of infrastructure needed for both of those, and then actually in earnest do some testing with our sandbox instances or with QA. So I feel like we're in a really good place for that. And just a big shout out to the team on that. I think that was another good example of swarming and coming together and making some great decisions. I think now we might transition over to reducing our tech debt. And I think the thing I'd like to call out here is we've made a lot of progress reducing that Bitnami overhead with that technical debt. The two biggies that remain there are really sort of Postgres and Solar. We're doing some great testing at the moment with Postgres on the Santa Barbara side. And Solar really is it's a beast. It's going to be a really heavy, there's no kind of ways around it. It's going to be a very heavy implementation. We've done some good sort of outreach in the community, and there just isn't community support for that. So we're thinking about how to kind of intelligently prioritize and bracket time off for large foundational efforts like that, and how they sort of relate to our prioritization of core feature functionality. I think in the tail end of this sprint, we sort of decided to come back to some core feature functionality that would unblock data migration or sort of more critical path items, and defer that just a bit until we get a better plan for how we're going to approach that, which is, I think, the smart way to advance the project while still honoring that that is an important part to address at some point. Matt, Alex, is there anything you want to add to the Bitnami, Postgres, or Solar side that we've left out?
I think you nailed it. I think we're still holding out some hope that the Sambir community will rally around the Solar thing. I think it's just that other people's priorities at the moment, sort of like ours, to your point that you just said, aren't focused on that. So I think, yeah, we're still cautiously optimistic that we won't have to shoulder that entirely on our own.
Excellent, thanks. Alex, anything on your end?
No, I think that sums it up.
Fantastic. Well, I think at this point we might actually pause for some questions and see if anyone has any. Okay, no open questions. So we'll go ahead and pause the recording and see if anyone still has any.